I saw from your website you have 5 service plans. In each city, do you feel like there's one that's more popular?
Part of me says we have too many offerings with 30, 60, 90, and 180 day, but I also think given choice and some flexibility is fine too. You just got to make sure that whatever plans you offer, there's repetition. There's a reason to it to where if somebody wants to switch plans or if they want to skip a cleaning or whatever that is, that there's an easy way to transition them onto another date and make the repetition start again.
Welcome back inside of Trash Chatter. I'm your host, Victoria Conaway, and today I am pleased to be joined by our first repeat guest on the show, Brian Flinchum, Mr. Clean Bins out of Jacksonville, Tampa, and Orlando. So a new addition that we'll get into later in today's episode. Brian, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on again.
Thank you for coming back on. You. Since you're the first repeat guest, I figured you're a seasoned veteran. You let me know that I forgot to send you some questions. So this will be a true organic conversation. I appreciate you making some time because most of these owners are busy, but you with the expansions that we'll get into, I assume your life's gotten even busier since the last time we spoke.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, having a few locations and then and off topic, we do have a youth soccer program we've been starting up. So we're all over the place.
I love that. Trash bins, youth soccer. So you guys are really busy, which I think makes things fun. I'm sure you
Yeah,
kind of get the feel maybe if things aren't busy, you guys maybe get a little bored or like, what do we do with ourselves?
yeah, that's exactly it. When you have a family and they want to do some other stuff, you just throw yourself into it. Why not? I don't like to sleep.
There you go. Well, you started out in Jacksonville back in the day, and now you have locations in Tampa and Orlando. My first question for you, was it something you always wanted to do? Did you want to expand to other parts of Florida, or did this opportunity present itself and you voted that it was something you wanted to take advantage of?
Well, I think two things is first is how much income do you want to live on? What is your lifestyle? What do you want? There's a lot of great competitors or colleagues in the industry that have one location and they probably are more profitable than me and probably doing quite well. I think for us, obviously when you expand you decrease profitability. It's very capital intensive, and you have to be in it for the long run because it's kind of it's like starting over. So I think the first thing is before anybody wants to do it, do you have the capital, do you have the time to really want to commit to it? For us, Jacksonville to Tampa is about 4 hours. That was our first small acquisition. And we did a Tampa Bay bin cleaners. They had about 300 customers. We did that about right at 2 years ago. It was a small acquisition, about 300 customers. The pricing for that 2 years ago was very, very economical. It was a good deal for us. And in terms of growing that out, today we're at around 15 to 1,600 subscribers in that market, which is, it's good. It took us in Jacksonville probably 3 years to get maybe up to that mark. So it's definitely a much bigger market, 3.5 million versus 1.5 million in Jacksonville, and one that we wanted to get into. Just the socioeconomic, there's just a lot more customers there with money. And we look to continue to do some acquisitions. We've done a few small ones in Jacksonville, but they've been very, very small, like 50 customers. We've tried to bid on some additional larger ones. And the pricing lately has I told John this as well, the pricing has kind of gone through the roof lately. Normally, when you're looking at business acquisitions, we've done some outside of the bin cleaning industry. A non-strategic purchase is normally 2 to 3 times earnings. So like if I was just going to a business broker and I wanted to buy somebody in town here in Jacksonville, 2 to 3 times the earnings plus whatever the capital, in our case would be trucks. That would be kind of a normal acquisition. Since we're kind of a newer industry, there's not a lot of earnings. There are, but this is still a long-term industry, very capital intensive. Things. So it's hard to value that way. And so what I've started to see on some of the deals, is like 1 times revenue, which is a lot. It can be a lot, for something that may not pay itself off. So we've taken a different strategic direction for Orlando of not actually buying anybody out and starting from scratch, and sending down a truck down there. So we actually don't have an employee in Orlando, for example. That's just it's a maybe a more aggressive approach than a lot of people would want to take. But right now, I think the industry is priced pretty, pretty rich. I think there's money coming in, which is great. If somebody wants to sell, now's and you've grown the business, now could be a great time if that's what you want to do. As interest rates maybe go higher again, and people that pricing may not stay there. I think and that again, that gets more into like the financial markets side of things. I don't want to get off too much, but for a strategic purchase, normally it's 6 to 8 times earnings. So that's where, I'm seeing that, I guess 1 times revenue seems to kind of equate to that in a way right now. And so money is changing hands, and that's a great thing for our industry. It shows we're definitely getting more mature.
Absolutely. And I think from recapping what you just introduced us with, so Tampa was more so opportunity presented itself. Okay, let's maybe have an operation there. I mean, with you living in Jacksonville, that's like where your headquarters is. What's that like on a day-to-day operations for Tampa? Like how many employees do you have there? Is it just one guy with a truck? And what was that growing process like for you? Because Jacksonville, you've got a pretty solid thing going. You've got your routine. All of a sudden now, like you said, you're 4 hours across the state in a good area. So obviously good benefits there. But what was that transition process like for all of you guys?
Yeah, I mean, so Tampa, we have 2 employees, full-time drivers for the most part. The key is either you'll put them on salary or you'll make sure you need to fill up their day, and which can be a little bit of a challenge when you're growing and you're this far away. It is very difficult to find good people that you trust to be remote. You got to pay more for that. And to be fair, you're going to get it right on the first go or the second try. Maybe not. It's taken us a little time to find some really good guys now. I don't have to worry about the guys not showing up remotely. I think they're that's one piece I don't have to worry about, calling out sick, not showing up. The piece I have to worry about that's probably the biggest concern is breakdown of equipment. We do have a full-time mechanic in Jacksonville, and that has been a blessing for us because really what we can do is get by with less trucks. We do have an 8th sparkling Bins 4 truck coming to us here very soon. And by the way, every truck I have is sparkling Bins. You guys do a great job. And we have 2 SB4s with the Honda and 6 006 soon with the PTO. The ones that we tend to put down in Tampa or soon to send down to Orlando starting next in 2 weeks, those are all PTOs, just less things to break, frankly. Honda engine, it's great, reliable, but there's a lot more parts on it and a lot of stuff can break. Not to say the PTO can't break, but generally speaking, I have more downtime with the Honda engines than I do with the PTOs. I guess it's a bit of a, if a PTO breaks down, it could be maybe something that's a little bigger, maybe a little longer downtime, but it's less frequent. So for me, the less frequency for me, specifically is what I'm focusing with down there. And I've only had to bring trucks back to Jacksonville like twice in 2 years, where we'll swap them with a vehicle up here. We'll try to keep an extra one kind of at our headquarters. So that's the way we do it strategically. And we'll normally meet in Ocala somewhere halfway between Tampa and Jacksonville. And I pay for my truck drivers to have a free lunch to get to know the drivers in the other locations. So we try to make, a day of it if we have to swap trucks. But again, that's very rare. We've only done it 2, maybe 3 times in 2 years. And again, little fixes we can do, but it's just the bigger items. Where I'd rather not have a truck stuck somewhere for a week or 2 weeks if there's a hydraulic arm issue or a PTO issue. But every day on the hoses, valves, your guys should obviously be trained up for something like that. Orlando, again, we're taking a slightly different strategic thing in terms of just sending somebody down every other week, different drivers so they don't burn out, and just putting them up in a hotel room, and buying a parking place with gray water disposal. Very small investment, but it's just a way to get a foothold to see if it's going to work. To be honest, will Orlando work? I hope so. But if it doesn't, it's a minimal investment in doing that approach. You don't have to buy anybody out. I think that's a way we can all kind of, and I see that in the pest control industry. For example, one of our pest control services here for my house, they're actually based out of Brunswick, and they're trying to expand in this area from Brunswick, Georgia down to here. And, and the trucks are parked, quite a bit of ways, but it can be done, and it's been done in other industries.
I like that a lot, Brian, and that's unique because it's probably one of the first times I've heard of that. But I think Orlando's a great example because at least from what I've seen is they're building so many homes and HOAs in Central Florida that if you can get yourself there and start marketing, and the fact that you're able to rotate and make the day out of it for your guys, I think that also builds camaraderie. It can switch things up because even doing routes every day, it can get a little tedious. So at least it breaks it up for them. Now that you're slowly getting into Orlando and trying to see how that goes, want to ask you how Jacksonville's been. Your home base is where you started. What was 2024 like for you, and what type of growth, if any, did you experience as you head into this new year?
Yeah, I would say Jacksonville has been it's steady. We're going into our seventh year. Jacksonville is very transient. We have naval bases. It's honestly not as good of a market as some of the other ones.
Mhm.
And I'm not just saying that for other people not to come into Jacksonville. It's a smaller population, very spread out, and it probably grows at 8 or 10%, maybe 10% a year. So maybe add 300 subscribers. That's nothing to turn your nose at. But compared to like bigger, more affluent areas like such as Tampa or Orlando, or probably down your area in Miami, there's probably more money and growth to be had. So whenever I see somebody pop up in Jacksonville, I always wish them the best, but Jacksonville is the biggest city in the continental U.S. By land area. So you better be prepared to drive, and you better be prepared to spend a lot of money to get some routes because there's a lot of spacing.
No, I'm with you, Brian, because anytime someone calls, my dad, if it's me talking to them or other sales reps, my dad's like, you tell him Mr. Clean Bins is there and he's been there for a while. And this is, the truth. And I've had friends go visit Jacksonville and they're like, there's not as many homes as I thought, or it's very spread out. So
Yeah,
I got
yeah.
that feedback recently. And I think that's why when you first started, when we had you on 3 years ago, you were really good, at least from what I saw on the website, of keeping your area contained. It's like there was North Jacksonville. You didn't get there till you were ready. And I'm assuming drive time had a lot to do with that.
Drive time, number of trucks. I mean, it's a lot. We probably went way more, like we probably serviced a 1,200 square mile area in Jacksonville. Orlando, we purposely are focusing on a very tight 400 square mile area with just one driver going down. In Tampa, I'm just making those guys drive everywhere. We're covering 2,400 square miles, which is way too much. But the strategy there is a little different to where maybe we only service every part of an area maybe once every 4 weeks to be able to get a foothold. And then as we get more people in those areas, then we'll start doing 2 times a month. And we did some of that in Jacksonville. So I think, servicing a big area is great. Maybe you lose a few people because they don't want to wait for, a couple weeks for service. And I get that, so you lose a few, but I think it's a great way to, expand quickly because there's only so many people that will probably purchase our service anyway. And my belief is if we service a bigger area, it's less profitable to start with, but if you can continue pushing out there and advertising, eventually those routes will pull up, and then you can have better service by coming out, every 2 weeks, or in some areas we do every week, like at the beaches where we live up here in Jacksonville. We're there every week, but that's because there's a lot of affluent people, and we have the customer base to service it now.
No, it seems like if you warrant it, then you'll be out there to service it. And that's something that we tell clients when they ask us, what do I service? Do I do monthly? Do I do quarterly? There's a lot of different options. And like I saw from your website, you have 5 service plans. In each city, do you feel like there's one that's more popular, or is it pretty spread out? throughout
Yeah,
the
and we initially only had the one time 30, 60, and 90-day plan. Um, and up to about 3 years ago, when I haven't looked recently, but about 3 years ago, just in Jacksonville, we almost had an even mix of 30, 60, and 90-day. I thought it was very interesting. It literally was within a percent or two of each other. Tampa and some of those markets down south, there's a lot of snowbirds who are just interested maybe in semi-annual service. They're here part of the year. They don't want to have a service year round. So when we did the acquisition, I was kind of surprised to see the number of semi-annual customers they had. And so we kind of added that on. Part of me says we have too many offerings with 30, 60, 90, and 180 day. There are competitors in the market that do say all they have is every 6 weeks for one of the a company that does franchises here, and that's a great business plan. But I also think given choice and some flexibility is fine too. You just got to make sure that whatever plans you offer, they can be. There's repetition. There's a reason to it to where if somebody, wants to switch plans or if they want to skip a cleaning or whatever that is, that there's an easy way to transition them onto another date and make the repetition start again. So for us, for example, we do everything is centered around 4 weeks. So when I say 30, 60, 90, 180-day plan, it's not quite right. It's every 28, 56, 84, and I think 164 days or whatever. I may be off on my semi-annual one, but and so that's, we're different in that regard, and we're also different because we actually charge via subscription. It doesn't matter when we go out and clean, and I think that's something that's a little unusual in the bin cleaning industry. I still think we may be the only one that says, "Hey, we're going to charge you regardless of when we come out," and then we close for a couple of days of the holiday so that we don't give away too many free cleanings. But that's a little more unique to us. But
Hey, everyone does what works best for them, and that's why we like having different guests on the podcast because it can give people a lot of insight. And I'm glad you've been able to talk through some of the acquisition processes because we get those questions a lot. And like you said, we're such a new industry still that it's like, nobody really has the science down packed. So there's different ways to go about it. As you know, we're in here inside of Trash Chatter, Victoria Conaway, alongside Brian Flinchum out of Jacksonville, Tampa, now Orlando as well. Mr. Clean Bins is his company name. Make sure you check them out on Facebook, on Instagram, and see what they're up to. When we last had you on, Brian, we talked a little bit about some of your advertising strategies. Wanted to see if that's changed at all. Do the different markets pick up better with Facebook ads? Maybe it's parades, different items that you might have tried in the different markets and how it's yielded to customers.
yeah, I mean, we're probably a little boring. I mean, still social media. I mean, there's no there's no magic sauce. We probably just spend more in advertising than most people. I've joked with several of my colleagues. They're like, "Man, you spend a lot of money in that," and I'm like, "Well, I
It's
mean,
working.
it kind of works. I mean, it's just take less profit now. Hopefully with some additional growth later. I mean, yeah, still Facebook, Instagram, and then Google Ads. I do think there's a shift towards Google AdWords becoming more and more popular. Um, there are some other changes with SEO now that there is competition out there. We do have a full-time developer that works for our websites for this business and some other businesses. I think SEO, as there becomes more larger competitors in each market, SEO and website ranking and the number of reviews becomes increasingly important. We use Nice Jobs for our reviews. That's been great. They do a good job. I have seen some other folks pop up with a crazy amount of reviews very quick, and I'm scratching my head as to how they do that in some markets. I'm I'm a little perplexed. So I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm still trying to find answers to some things. But I think if you just social media and Google AdWords, and then if you have some money, it's hard for the new guys to go and spend money on SEO. It's not going to get your return right away. But once you've been in the industry for a few years, spending a little bit of money in that area, I think would be wise.
No, definitely. And we tell everyone that you need to have that working capital. And that's something we really try to pitch because I think you can attest to it 7 years ago. If you don't have working capital to get you through those first couple of months, it's difficult, but it's neat to see how you've shifted now. Like, okay, we're hitting the ground, getting our feet acclimated to everything, and now we're going to adjust a little bit and maybe focus on other trends that we're seeing, because SEO, our SEO team as well has talked a lot about that, and Google kind of stepping up a little bit. So that's interesting that you've kind of seen that trend as well. I don't know if it's a Florida thing or maybe it's just the
Yeah,
entire.
I think with more competition, I mean, Jacksonville, we really didn't have much, which is it was great as an incubator to get started. But now going into Tampa and Orlando with guys who've been there, maybe not Tampa as long. That's a relatively new. There's guys that are competitors, but nobody that's been there for more than a couple years on average. Uh, Orlando's got guys who've been there as long as I've been in Jacksonville, maybe even longer. So, yeah, SEO in a market like that, yeah, obviously it's going to be very important. Um, I don't even know how many competitors are in each market, but it's probably at least 8, 10, that are always coming in and out, and probably in Orlando, 2 or 3 big ones. So yeah, I mean, if you want to compete with the big boys, you better be ready to spend and stay, because they're not going to give up their customers easily, and I don't expect them to. And to be honest, there are a lot of customers and a lot of people in these areas. I think we can all make money together and not have to be, cutthroat, or, it's not my style anyway. I think, there's plenty of business to be had by everybody. And a rising tide lifts up all boats. I really do believe that. We've tried to do that in all our businesses. And I think if you go at it in a negative fashion, either karma or other people, you'll get your just desserts. So I think, I mean, I really encourage people to be positive, and if there is competition in your area, you don't need to focus on taking them out. There's going to be enough for everybody, especially in the big markets.
Definitely in the big markets. And I like that you said there's 8 to 10 potentially in all those markets, with Tampa and Orlando, because we'll have people call us and there's like, oh, there's somebody that's doing it. I'm like, there's one, and you've got a big enough market. Like you said, there's so many homes being built. I know, especially in Florida, like the last 5 years, it's been crazy in Tampa, in Orlando. And I hear more and more with houses that they're putting up. With that being said, that you're in 3 markets right now, are you set on 3 cities? Is there anything else you might want to get to one day, or are you still just taking it where you're at right now?
I think we're good for a while. I mean, I think this is honestly with capital intensive, in terms of how much that these markets will require, to kind of really mature, and my energy level and focus on other things. This is probably it for me, unless my sons, if they want to take it over someday, can want to go from there. I'm not saying never, but for me, like, I could see sinking into some of the smaller markets from those markets, meaning, Lakeland or Daytona Beach in several years, that you get a foothold somewhere else, and maybe, seep into some of those secondary markets to where maybe you could send a truck over, for a week, and so to some of the smaller markets, or maybe even set up a small 1 or 2 truck operation in some of those cities, that are kind of along, the connecting cities from Jacksonville down to Tampa. That's possible, but I think, just focusing on a couple of the big cities is plenty. Tell your dad I'm not going to Miami.
I'll let him know Brian's not making his way. I mean, you have made that drive a couple of times. Maybe we're gonna see a Mr. Clean Bins. They keep building
Yeah.
so many developments down here. I mean, we don't have as much land as Jacksonville left, but they're finding ways to put more homes and more developments, especially, Doral, where our shop's at. There's so many HOAs going up,
Oh
which
yeah.
is good for us. We're kind of targeting those areas to try to
Yeah, I think
expand.
Miami and Tampa. I think Miami or Tampa. I'm not sure which of those what was the fastest growing in the state. So
Probably
yeah,
competing, the two of them.
yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, there's plenty. I mean, I think, really the biggest competitor we should all have is, really, where's the economy going? No one knows. I mean, this is a luxury good. This is one of those where people, want to cut out something. It's probably one of the first to go. So I think, our focus, that's something obviously you can't control. And so that's why, like, at this point, with the way I'm looking at the economy, I'm like, all right, this is probably good enough. Let's just, you know, get here, grow, and make everything profitable, so that, if a harsh time comes from an economic perspective, the trucks are paid off and we can just buckle down. So that's that's kind of the way I'm looking at, like, for this right now.
No, definitely. It's a good perspective because, like you said, it's totally out of our control and nobody has answers. So hopefully just keep doing what you're doing, sticking to where you're at and growing. When you were talking about Orlando earlier, so you're sending a truck from Jacksonville. You said every 2 weeks down there, and
Yeah, every 2 weeks right now. For the areas that we're servicing, there is trash and recycle pickup every week. It's not like here in Jacksonville where it gets really complicated, where they only come and do recycling every other week and all that. Another reason why I think Jacksonville's a weird market compared to Tampa, where they pick up the trash twice a week and recycling every week. I'm like, man, you guys got money down in southern part of Florida. We don't up here in Northeast Florida get. We just have to live with our trash longer, so it makes the bins more full. But yeah, we're just gonna send a truck down to Orlando, just every other week for right now, and service a very very small type market. I think it's something that anybody who wants to expand could easily do. It's not capital intensive. You just pay for a hotel room for a few nights for a couple drivers. Like you said, the drivers love it. They get them out, especially Orlando. They're like, hey, I can go play putt or feed live gator, whatever. I have something to go do in the evenings. So they're pretty pumped about that.
it's like a nice mini vacation for them, not too far away. They can come back home when they're ready. But I mean, I think that's a really smart idea. I haven't really heard of other people doing it. And like you said, it's not too far from you. But then when you're keeping your eyes on different markets, it's a good way to test it out and see if it's viable.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't lose any money from that. I mean, you may have an extra truck, but you'll grow into it at your other locations. So no, not other than the money you spend for lodging and Facebook and social media and some of that. Not saying you won't lose anything, but it's a low risk, high reward, which I think anybody would want that.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back on to check in to see how it's going. I think people would be interested to hear that. And before I let you go, Brian, I want to ask you, in the next 5 to 10 years, where would you see Mr. Clean Bins? I know nobody has a magic 8 ball, but what would you like to see from the company as you guys continue to expand into these markets?
Yeah, I mean, just steady growth. 8 trucks in each location would be awesome in like 10 years, and a mechanic in each location where I don't have to worry about that. And that keeps up with inventory. That would be phenomenal. Another good thing about it, the hope is with multiple locations, you could afford maybe a GM. So maybe if you want to go have some time off, you could do that and have more balance in life. So hopefully all the hard work lets us afford that and have a little more quality of lifestyle when we get older. So
Awesome, Brian. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join us. And thank you for all the insight you give to so many people that I know call you, message you, ask for your input. You're a huge proponent of the industry, and we're thankful that we got to meet you over 7 years ago. And it's awesome to see folks like yourself succeeding. So thank you so much.
thanks, Victoria. We got to get you up here to Jacksonville. We're proud to have a semi-pro soccer team, and I know you have a good voice.
Listen,
I know you
yeah,
have to school for that. We got to get you to use some of that at some point. Come up here and announce a few games. I mean, mostly do baseball though.
yeah. No, listen, I did soccer a few times. I love all sports. That would be awesome. So it's a semi-pro league that you guys have up there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's you got it down in Miami, UPSL. It's a pretty big. It's the biggest fourth division league for soccer for semi-pro amateur players. So yeah, it's fun. We have a lot of. It's a blast. So
I think we can arrange, a work trip to come on out, maybe see the trucks, see the location, meet up with you guys, and then hopefully catch some soccer games. That would be awesome, Brian.
yeah, it'd be a blast. Be a blast. It's good seeing you, Victoria.
Thanks, Brian. Take care. Thank you for joining us today. And everyone that's tuning in, we have new episodes releasing every month on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you check out MrCleanBins.com to see what they've got going on. Follow them on Facebook, on Instagram. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time.